Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB bikini pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Today, we are chatting with an athlete who has competed in 6 regional shows and 6 national shows before earning her pro card at 2020 USA. This was last December. It was awesome. I was there with her. We were in the same class and everything. So this is super special. And she lives in California as a personal trainer and credits the happiness she has in her life to chasing her dreams and having the support of friends and family through everything. So welcome to the show, Trisha Green. How are you doing?
I am doing so well. And like I was just telling you, I've been so excited for this, this interview and this podcast literally, since, we talked about it and then waking up this morning, like I'd already mentioned to you, just felt like I was waking up on Christmas morning or waking up to go to Disneyland or something magical. And I just couldn't wait for it because I really am such a fan of this podcast and listening to everybody's journeys. And so this is really exciting that I get to know.
Well, I am so happy you're here, and I love to hear that. It means a lot to me. I find it extra special to interview girls who listen to the podcast because, one, I appreciate the support, but two, because if like I told you, it's made an impact on your journey. So you know that your story is going to impact others. And of course, I'm going to ask you the classic question, which is, do you have a ritual or anything you do right before your heel hits the stage?
I definitely know this is a classic question because, like I said, I listen to all the podcasts, but it's still one of those things that you have to, I remember sitting back and thinking about this one, and I was like, do I have a ritual? Like, do I have something that I do every single time? And I guess there's not something I would call like a ritual that's like, where I know that I do it every single time, but maybe something that I know for sure before my foot does hit that, that stage, I I just sit back and kind of take some deep breaths and I remind myself to just have fun up there because you can be back there and you can have so many nerves and so much kind of going through your mind. And that's really when I tell myself, okay, just have fun, do this because you love to do it, and let that be what makes you shine. Because if you walk up on that stage and just have all those nerves and don't have that confidence, that really shows. And, I've definitely been there, in shows where I know it doesn't show. And the difference that it, has made for me is always reminding myself, okay, go up there, have fun, and just do this because you love to do it. So I guess more of just like a reminder to myself. And that's something that I've pretty much religiously done every show.
Yes, that's awesome. It's so important to be able to calm ourselves down. So when we step on stage, we're representing our best, but also embracing the stage and enjoying our experience because no outcome is ever promised. And you have been competing since 2015, and obviously you've evolved a lot since then. So what would you say has maybe changed about you or maybe your approach as an athlete between 2015 and now, or maybe your thoughts on competing as a whole?
Wow, that is such a great question. It really is. I think the best way to go about that would be just like anybody starting out in it. I really didn't have a clue like what it really would entail, the journey that I would be on and the journey I would want to continue to be on with competing. I didn't, and I know no one, I mean, maybe some people go into it differently, but for the most part, you kind of go into it like, oh, I want to try this. So my mindset then was like, I would see all these girls doing this, and I had followed a lot of pros and all the people who did it and loved it. And I was like, this is something I think I want to try, one time. And then I remember, stepping on stage for the first time and just instantly, feeling like I got bit by that bug where I was like, oh my gosh, I got to do this again and again and again. And then you just see yourself improving. You see yourself changing so much physically and mentally and just getting stronger in all areas of your life from it. And so that's something I think then going into it, I was just more on the mindset of, okay, I just want to do this. I want to try it and then maybe be done with it versus now it's really like kind of how I live my life now. It really became such a lifestyle like for me to strive for this and want to do this and want to promote different areas of fitness and like all aspects of it, because now as a coach, um, I do work with like lifestyle clients, work with bikini prep clients, now more so posing clients and stuff. So it's really just being able to branch me out as a, as a whole person and what I love to do every day.
Yes. Ooh, I'm actually curious now. Were you living this lifestyle at all before you started, or was it just something you had been seeing online and you're like, okay, this looks cool?
And so I was that, it's so funny because I was a gym manager for a really long time. So I had always worked in a gym like atmosphere. But when I first started, competing and everything, I wasn't a trainer or anything. I was just working at a gym. And I found obviously, I kind of found like with working out and stuff like that. And I would be that person who would go on like the bodybuilding.com and start looking up exercises
Yes.
every day and workouts. And I was kind of just, trying to like teach myself everything. And I did that for a little while. And I just became where I liked just feeling stronger in the gym. There really wasn't any sort of like routine or structure or anything that I had. I would just go in and find a workout to do for that day and do that. So I was basically that, that person who would either just be in cardio or be looking up different workouts to do that day. And then I decided I wanted to become more knowledgeable in how to exercise properly. And that's what actually prompted me to become a trainer is I didn't want to hire a trainer myself. I wanted to learn the knowledge for myself to take that on. And then I started like learning more and more. I wasn't sure what I would do with it. And then, like I said, I followed a lot of other competitors and girls and was like, oh, this is the next thing I want to try and do. And so it really then led me into so much more of a structure and a routine and really did teach me so much. And I would definitely say it taught me so much in regards to proper like portions and nutrition because I was that girl when I first started who, yes, I worked out and I ate what I thought was healthy, but it wasn't any sort of a structure, routine, and it definitely was like all over the place. Like some days eating way too much, some days eating way under. So it really helped me find that overall balance of everything.
I love that. I love how you just said like bodybuilding actually helped you and supported you in finding balance. And I think that that can sometimes be a misunderstanding, like from the outside looking in, like, oh, it's so unbalanced and you can't find it. But structure and routine really brings a lot to our lives, not just as competitors and in the performance sense, but just as a whole. And I do want to ask you, because I know after this recent show, you were struggling a little bit transitioning into improvement season and you kind of had realized like focusing on getting your pro card was maybe taking away some of your energy or focus from other priorities in your life. And I was just curious like how you've been doing since then and like how your mindset shifted or how you're better distributing your energy now.
I'm so glad that you had listened to that and brought that up because I think
Yes.
that is something really important to, like it really is important to touch on as far as, people out there looking to compete or, wanting to get their pro card and kind of what their, goal is with it. And like I had said, I first started off with competing because I just wanted to try it. And then I had such this like love for it and desire for it. And it was teaching me so much about myself and about things that I can be achieving in life in general. And I had always felt like I had such a good balance of, normal, right, my normal kind of like day to day routine and structure, everything with competing. it just all kind of seemed to not feel like any part of it was being like taken away or anything. And then this last year, obviously, so much with the world, I'm not even just saying like, okay, to me, like, obviously, I am in California, so everything was just complete, just couldn't go anywhere, couldn't do anything, everything was just very, and I was working in a gym. And so, I went a while without, going to work. Everyone was staying at home. Everyone was figuring out, okay, what's going to happen. No one knew how long everything was going to be like down for. And I really did utilize that time to put everything into, okay, this is, I'd already been competing, but I was like, now I'm going to do as much as I can, as much as like it lets me do, because I knew that shows I could be prepping for a show and it not happen. And, but my mindset was I'd rather prep for it and be ready for it for if it does happen versus not, and then regretting not taking that chance and that opportunity to do it. And so I noticed this last year, because I wasn't focusing on like going to the gym to work or having, going to see my family. I would always make my family a priority because we were all staying very distant. It just kind of, I'm such like an extroverted person, but this last year made me really kind of bring out more introverted tendencies. And I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but just when you're being just to yourself a lot of the times, then you don't have that normal social aspect of life that you're used to. It does kind of like always make you like overthink a little bit. And so, when I got done with my pro card, I was like thinking over this last year, and I was like, man, like that really was such like a great goal, and I'm so thankful for it. But I noticed like, you know, the things that, obviously weren't in my control, like seeing my family and being able to, build more clients at the gym and everything like that. I knew that those things weren't in my control, but I wanted to now and take control of being able to bring back that full structure and routine in my life so that I continue to love the sport and not think that it's the only thing I ever need to focus on in life. If that makes any sense. I don't know if I just went on a rant or if that makes sense, because I really am doing so much better. And I think it was because I needed to give myself that reset. I was already ready to like go and and like just keep staying on prep to get ready for my pro debut. Like I was ready to keep going, but and I know a lot of people do that right away, and I think that's where I get in my head too. Is I'm like, okay, well, everyone else just goes straight to their pro debut, and me, I was like, okay, this is the time to reset not just my mind, but give my body that physical break too and relief, and then know that when I do go into my rookie season, that everything is there, not just physical, but that strong like mental mindset as well. That like, okay, I can take on anything.
I love that. Like really taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture to go, if I don't reset, I'm putting at risk my enjoyment and I might build resentment. But if I do reset, I'm setting myself up for failure to go into, or I'm sorry, I'm setting myself up for success to go into my next prep with a mindset that supports my longevity.
Absolutely. I definitely want longevity. And sometimes when you've stayed on prep for so long and kind of stayed in that mindset for so long of waiting for the next show, then that's really kind of all that then consumes you. And then I feel like then that's when people maybe lose that love for it. And I don't ever want to lose it, because I love it. I really do love it so much. And I want to do so well in it. And I don't just want to jump into a show to jump into a show, especially now as a pro. Like I want to go in and know that I was going into the full prep and the full show and everything with the best mindset possible.
Absolutely. I think that's the most important thing in this sport is that we have that mindset, that champion mentality to know one, there is really no rush, right? Like if we're really living this as a lifestyle, there's no rush. We can just continue to live it and set ourselves up for, optimal performance and of course the result that we ultimately want. So now I'm curious, what was your feedback from Sandy that you're now focusing on and working towards in conjunction with rebalancing all these areas of your life?
Right. So that was the first thing I wanted to get right away, because I was, like I said, I was so excited to jump into the next show that I thought was going to just be right away. So I was like, okay, what do I need to do? And my feedback was actually just to fill out. Um, like they said, I was actually very proportioned and symmetrical, which is really great because I feel like I'd spent so many those first few years competing, trying to get that balance
Hmm.
between my upper and lower. And the balance is there, the proportions are there, but just filling out more of the delts to be rounder and filling out more of the glutes to be rounder. So more of that roundness shape, and just it's just that shape that you see on the pros. You know, you see them with those full round glutes and those full round delts, and you could definitely get your body conditioned and leaned and proportion in all the right areas, but that roundness that you need as a pro. Like I definitely know what she means because then putting my pictures up, I'm like, okay, this is where I can use the fullness in those areas.
Oh my gosh. Yes, fullness is the key word, right? Like
Yes.
everybody needs like more muscle, more roundness, more density, more fullness. Like it's true when you look at like a lot of the like let's say the top 5 Olympians from this year, like wow, beautiful feminine look with full muscles.
Yeah, they're not just like lean, like they have that
Mm-hmm.
conditioning, they have everything you need, but that's definitely the word to use is you need that fullness, you need that pop. You can't just get
Yeah,
lean.
the pop,
Pop,
exactly.
yes.
Oh my gosh. I love that you're sharing that too. Cause like in your mind, after earning it, you're like, this has been a long journey. I want to like hit the pro circuit, have my rookie season, but you still valued the necessity of getting feedback. And something that I think is interesting or kind of cool, and I actually want to hear your perspective on it, is you did a lot of spectrum shows, a lot of spectrum regional shows. So I imagine you were actually getting in front of Sandy a lot. And I was wondering if she ever, like every time you got feedback from her, was she noticing the changes you were making over these last 6 years?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've definitely have done a lot of shows in front of Sandy for the reason of I want to continuously be in front of Sandy. I want her to see my face. I want her to
Mm-hmm.
be able to be able to recognize me and see the improvements that I'm able to make from show to show. And she actually has in a feedback email to me, she has put back a side by side of me of myself from a previous national show to another national show. So in that sense, I know she's been able to see like, okay, I remember this girl from this national show. Let's see where she was then, the placing she got then, to where she is now. And like I said, when I first started competing, it was all about for me getting the balance. My legs were always way more dominant than my upper body, like it is for I know most girls. And then once I was able to work on that, it became more of like the fine tuning, like really finding the right suit that complemented my tan, to how my hair was that day, to if I was holding my core in enough for show. So she's really been able to help me kind of take those smaller details way more into consideration than I would have ever had when first starting to compete.
Definitely. It's like when you first start, it is really just a whirlwind, like what to expect, what's going to happen. I just want to try this out. It'll be great. And then the more shows you do and the more feedback you get or the more experience you have, you're able to almost like more accurately see where improvements are needed and really embrace that you enjoy the process. And so it's important to also then respect the process and the criteria. And so I think it's cool that you're able to get that feedback over time. And for you, it wasn't until 2017 that you hit the national stage for the first time. You placed fifth at USA's, but then you took 2 years off. So what was your focus and goal in those 2 years? Because that's a great placing for first national show.
It is. I was so excited. I was like, I can't believe this is happening. Fifth at my very first national show, which, funny enough, that my first national show was USA's. And then I'm like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
last national show was USA. So to me, it was just, I was like, wow, that was meant to be. But looking back on that, I can definitely say I had no initial intention of taking 2 years off. I got obviously like excitement is there. And I remember I got that fifth place, and we wanted to take the rest of like that year off, and come back in 2018 and keep hitting the national circuit. So that was the original plan, was to keep hitting that national circuit either at the end of 2017 or beginning of 2018. But towards the end of 2017, a lot of just life changes kind of happened. And life just happens. I was getting out of a really, not so great relationship, and I decided to, move from my hometown to, and I moved with my best friend to Sacramento, and that's where I live now, is in Sacramento. And I was trying to figure out, okay, what do I want to do? Where do I want to work? What do I want to be? And I could definitely say I spent all of 2018 just trying to like figure myself out. I had become like very like wrapped up in who I was with, and meeting everyone's expectations, and not really thinking about just who I wanted to be. And I didn't feel like I felt like I really was like a very toxic person in other people's life, because I just never saw positives in myself, and it just became that way. Um, and then I really decided just to to make the move to be around people who supported all my dreams and everything. And then all of a sudden, it's just time goes by. I hadn't thought about stepping on stage again. I said maybe that was just something I had done, and maybe it's not who I am now. And then I all of a sudden just got that urge again to say, like, but what if I had kept going? What if I keep going? What's going to happen? And then that's when we decided to prep again. And that's when I came back to Tahoe show and won that overall. And I said, wow, I really do still have this spark. And then that's what made me want to I was like, okay, we're going to hit the national circuit. We're going to do what we had always wanted to do, and we're going to get that pro card. And so that was just, I feel like that, I feel like that time needed to happen for me to appreciate, who I am and where I'm at now in this journey.
Mm, that's powerful. The fact that you prioritized that time for yourself and getting to an environment that was more beneficial for you, and then it naturally led to a self-discovery phase, which naturally then led you back to asking the question of, what if I did keep going? What if I did do this again? What if it's not over, right? um and I was curious if after taking that time off, when you came back onto a prep, or when you came back into that competitor mindset, was it like the same as ever before? Like, no problem, I got this? Or did it feel like somewhat of a new experience again? Or like you had to re-immerse yourself?
Definitely not. I feel like once I had started competing and getting the structure and getting the routine, and then I became, like throughout those years later, I became a trainer. I became more in like, definitely more into, I guess, the fitness like industry and everything. I just had developed those habits and those really, and I'm a person who I really do like routine. I really do like structure. So I definitely know that those same things that I was doing in prep didn't ever leave me. Like I really still, weighed out my food, making sure I was eating, like enough through the day and everything like that. So those things really did stick with me throughout, I guess you would say that, that off season.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then it felt really natural just getting back into a prep. It really did. Um, I feel like the only difference between that time was then I did actually um, switch from where I would used to count macros to like a meal plan. So that was the only thing that became a little bit different, um, which is, to me, they kind of go hand in hand with macros. You basically you make your own meal plan versus just following some set foods. So that was the only thing I feel like was a little bit different. But other than that, the structure and everything was something that I'd already engraved like, I guess, in me. And it just felt really natural getting back into the swing of like full prep again.
Absolutely. And you had made, like, you've always made really consistent physique changes as well, which I'm definitely going to be talking to you about. But you brought up a great point about how the lifestyle was there. Maybe the structure or the approach looked a little different. You went from, I believe you said you went from macros to meal plans when it came to transitioning into a prep. But how do your like let me go back. How does your experience over the last 6 years inform you of what you do now? Like, how did that experience help you nail this last prep? Like, is there anything specific you learned about your body in that time frame, or about training, or the best things for you?
Really, I think, the difference from that start to, I guess, finish as far as like being an NPC was I'd always, I never go into a show, and I could definitely say this even from the very beginning. I never want to, on that day, be thinking, oh, what if I hadn't, like, what if I didn't eat this, or what if I did this? Like, I never want to have like those regrets. So I can, definitely honestly say that every show that I step into, I'm always feeling like I'm bringing my best because I did my best leading up to it.
Mhm.
And I never want that to be like a reason for me placing or not placing like how I want to. If I don't place the way I want to, then I'm able to, take that feedback and work with it and grow from it and hopefully come into the next show with those improvements. But I never not think it's because of something I didn't follow or something I didn't do, because that's something that I will be, like, I would be mad at myself for that if I
Yep.
had stepped on stage knowing, oh, like if I just hadn't done this or hadn't done that. So my mindset just really shifted to being able to know that whatever the outcome brings for that day, I know that I put everything that I could into it, followed plan exactly, and there wasn't going to be any regret. So that's my big, I guess, takeaway from that start to finish with it is just knowing that I'm always trying to improve show to show, of course, but I'm never stepping on that stage knowing that I didn't do, what was on plan for me to do or what I knew I wasn't not supposed to do, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I think that's so important. And I remember at the start of my journey, there was toxicity in some relationships that also encouraged me to really commit to myself. And I remember seeing, how can I expect other people not to, like, cheat on, not that this is a direct correlation, but it was one that I made, like, cheat on me, or be toxic with me, or say rude things and mean things, or try to control me, if I am not willing to give myself respect and honor my own commitments and be true to me and my needs. And I remember that really informed my commitments of discipline for myself as a form of respect. And I think that is a big part, because I wouldn't want to step on stage wondering the same thing. Like, have I done everything I could, and have the answer be no? That would be painful and excruciating. And honestly, that really is a big reason too why I do the work I do. I love helping competitors have that adherence, because it does make a big difference in how we feel about ourselves. And I know that, you always follow your plan, you stick to it, you say this is very important to you. Now, you have, like I had previously mentioned, made serious physique changes from when you started to now. So along the way, did you try any different types of training protocols, or was your coaching usually the same type of approach?
I could definitely, it's going to sound, I feel like it's going to sound funny, but I felt like um, leading into these last few shows that I was doing versus my first run of like some of the national circuits that I was doing versus so I've done 6 national shows. So I would say the first half of them versus the second half of them, I was actually letting my body like eat more through the like and so my coach would put more a little more food on my plan. And initially you'd always be like, okay, is this right? But you really do. I know it's so cheesy to say trust the process and trust the journey, but that really is so true. I feel like people get really scared to make those scary changes. If you need to put on some more size and if you need to put on some more roundness, sometimes your body's going to need a little bit more food or a little bit less of a intense cardio sessions. I went from starting off prep ever, first time competing ever, to like only hit sessions, to now I really just do steady state. So you have to fine tune with your own body and how your body is responding from show to show. And that you only know from experience and from doing. For me personally, when I do a lot of, hit cardio, I notice, my legs are always way more inflamed. I'm not, my strength training sessions aren't as intense. So that's really what made the difference for me, was figuring out, okay, what foods are, am I responding the best to? What cardio am I responding the best to? And am I able to put my all into each training session?
That's awesome. I love that. Looking at the whole picture, not just like, I should be doing this, I should be doing that, but instead, how do all these parts and pieces work together? And I know that you had switched coaches along the way too. And I was hoping you could open up about like what informed that decision, and how did you know when you had found the right fit and even a team you would grow into and coach for?
Yeah. So, when I first started competing, I was on a team, and that one was just that really worked out so great. And I would say in like such like a way of like fate, because this is when I first was looking into other competitors and other things and seeing people on their journey. And my coach, who I'd started with, reached out to me and said, "Hey, have you ever thought about competing?" And I said, "Oh, it's so funny you say that. I like just, I've actually been really, really thinking about it." And so that got me, initially on the team. Like I said, I used to do, macros and everything, and really taught me so much. And I don't have any, I don't have any regrets about that whatsoever. But I would definitely say, when I was younger and I was first starting off, it's hard and I know it's so different now, but I would say it was different years ago, being on a huge team that's so like just expanding, and I didn't feel like I was really getting good, like, I guess good, like, that individual attention, like, anymore. It became more, it was like all group posing together or all group check-ins together. It just became a little bit less, I guess I found little less structure, a little less routine. And I wanted a different approach with somebody a little bit more personal, maybe a little more local to me, that I could actually physically be seeing. And then that's when I actually had my coach, Sean Siebold, and I have nothing but positive things to say. I can honestly say I would still be with Sean, but he actually went into the military. And that's why I'm with Dave Strickler now, the coach I have now. Sean and him are really, really good friends. And Sean had nothing but positive things to say in regards to Dave. And Dave is somebody who, as my coach now, he has been at, I want to say, almost like every single one of my shows that I've competed in. And I've always seen him backstage helping his girls. And he's come up to me in multiple occasions just to say, "Hey, wow, you look great. Great job. If you need anything, I'm here." Like, nothing to the point where he was trying to take me away from anybody,
Right.
but just giving me that encouragement and that uplift. And so when Sean was going off to the military, Dave was who instantly clicked into my head, as far as like, wow, who was somebody that was like always there and really personal with his clients. And it's really, yeah. And that's where that transition came in, is I like having those really good personal, connections and interactions with whoever's, with who's coaching me. And I love being a part of that, with the whole team now.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think I actually saw him backstage at USA's, and I I've seen him, really support his girls through like social media as well, and his wife too. It seems like they both really just care.
Yeah.
So I love that you, despite like those ups and downs or those challenges and finding a coach you really liked after kind of, outgrowing your original team, and then, or maybe them outgrowing you, and then in some ways, but then finding Sean and him going to the military, but having it be such a natural fit for you to now coaching with them. And I do want to talk to you about your experience as an athlete, and then we can kind of see how maybe that informs like how you approach your clients, because you've had to do a lot of shows to get where you are now. Or I should say, when I say a lot, in terms of what most people maybe expect when they enter bodybuilding, when really there's plenty of pros who it took 10, 20, multiple shows, and it really just depends. Everyone's journey is different, but your placings varied from show to show. And each national show you did, I imagine, must have been a little bit different or special in some way. So how do you think you showed up at each that prevented you from getting the pro card compared to now when you did show up and you placed and earned your pro card?
That's another such a great question. I could definitely say that I I would definitely say that what got me to now, like versus the when I was doing national shows last year and I wasn't placing like how I'd wanted to. Um, I was going in. I could definitely say that I was going into those with a lot of expectation. I I was definitely going into it like thinking, okay, like this is definitely it's you want to definitely manifest and talk positively about it, but I was putting more expectation on myself from what other people had thought. And I felt like that almost like jinxed it in a way. Like, yes, you definitely want to go into it with that confidence and that knowing that, hey, like, it's going to happen. But the just, and I could definitely just say from just USA's, I remember being there and just feeling the most ease I'd ever felt into a show.
Mhm.
And just with honestly the most confidence. Like, it was the most relaxed I had been, with the mindset of thinking, like, okay, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, but if it does, it's meant to be. And that was my mindset, saying like, I know I'm ready for it, and when it's my time, it's going to happen. Versus the national circuit last year, I would go into it like, okay, it's like all or nothing kind of thing.
Mhm.
And I think that really does play such a role, in your competitor's mindset. Is, yes, go into it with the most confidence that you have, but also just remember why you do it and why you love the sport, and that your time will come, and to not give up on it, and to not just do that show because you think, okay, that's like it for me. Be
Mhm.
thinking long term with it, saying, okay, if it's meant to be, it's going to be meant to be. If not, we grow, we learn, we keep going, and then it's going to make it feel that much more worth it when it does happen. And that's how it felt for me. It made me feel like I wouldn't have wanted it any sooner, because that was my time, and I felt the most joy and most like peaceful, like I said, going into that show versus any other show I've ever done.
That's awesome. I love that. And it's important that we detach from that outcome so we can really be present in the moment. And it sounds like you went from being caught up in the expectation or the possibility of the win, and instead focused on just enjoying that moment and enjoying that, hey, it's going to happen when it's meant to. And releasing that pressure can certainly go a long way. But I imagine there were times where maybe that could have felt discouraging, especially last year if your mindset was rooted in the outcome. So was there ever a time where you felt discouraged or like you thought about giving up?
Absolutely. I mean, I definitely won't say that every show you go into it like not upset if you don't place how you want to. Like, I'm more hard on myself than anything else. And for me, it's about, I don't want to disappoint myself and I don't want to disappoint the people around me, which I know it can't be. I really know that that can't be how you feel. You shouldn't worry about what other people are thinking. And it doesn't disappoint anybody else if you don't do as well as maybe you thought you were going to do and things like that. But I think just that relaxation of realizing how much I just love the sport and love the journey led me to be able to appreciate each show more, each journey more, and learn from it, grow from it. And like I said, I couldn't be more thankful for it, honestly.
Mhm.
And it's still, I still think about that, and I get those butterflies again. So
That's super awesome. Would you say that it's that love and passion for the process that has kept you going?
absolutely, I think that's so important to. Uh, yes, you can go into a show wanting to step on stage and just try it, but if you want the longevity in it and you want to see how far you get in it, it's something you have to enjoy the process. You have to enjoy the journey. If not, you're just going to make yourself miserable by feeling like you're forcing anything that you don't actually love and it can't be just a part of your life and not your entire life. So, the fact that I found so much love in the process and the journey, and it's helped me, become and be able to achieve. And I have such big goals for myself. Like, as a pro now, like I really just like, with anybody else, like I want to go to the Olympia. I want to be next to all these people that I've been looking up to for so many years and that I can't wait for. And you have to go into it with an open mind and that you're doing it because you love to do it. And that's going to make every day enjoyable in it.
That's for sure. I appreciate you bringing that mindset to this podcast as well and sharing how that's really informed your journey and supported you in it, because that instant gratification that we can so often seek is nowhere near as fulfilling in the long run than knowing we're doing something that's adding to our life. It's bringing more to our life than surface level results or experiences. And I think it's awesome to go after our goals and chase our dreams. And sometimes when we get there, it's almost like there can be this grieving process or even this up leveling that occurs. Like, okay, now I've achieved this, and oh my gosh, I'm no longer chasing it. What does that mean? And when you finally got your pro card, how did it feel? Like, was it surreal or strange to know that your next prep would no longer be to go after your pro card, but it would be now to maybe earn points for the Olympia?
Wow, no, it definitely was because I touched upon this on Instagram,
Mhm.
but I was in that, like I said, I was in that mentality, like in going into this show, like, hey, if it's my time, it's my time. If it's meant to happen, it's gonna happen. And if it's not, it wasn't my time. So I was still in that mentality of, okay, if it doesn't happen this show, I was I was still ready to keep going. I was gonna just keep hitting the national circuit. I was so driven at this point
Mhm.
to know that, hey, if I just keep showing up, I keep working hard, it's gonna be my time. One day. So I was still in that mentality of like, okay, I'm gonna keep going for however long it takes me to go. Um, and then it happened, and I was like, oh my gosh, like obviously this is something I'd been, praying for and wanting and, hoping that it would happen when it was my time. And it, it was just my time for it to happen. And I remember thinking, wow, like I was prepared to, just keep going for as long as I needed to in the national circuit. But now we don't anymore. Our next prep is going to be, with the pros. And that's something that you dream about, you think about, but it doesn't really hit you until it happens. So then I'm thinking, wow, like I've been able to gain all this experience and all this knowledge and learn my body so well that, and still, love and still want to such a love for the journey that it's, we're starting over. We're back at the bottom is kind of what I thought. I was like, yeah, we'll be like a fish in the sea, being thrown in. But I've been able to gain so much experience through the years that it has taken me, that I know I'll go into it with just that same open mindset and just be ready to, when it's my time to hit the stage, then be ready to hit the stage. And when it's my time to go to Olympia, I know I'll have that time too. So that's just my same mindset going into now competing as a pro, which is so exciting to talk about.
It's very exciting. It feels like this mindset you had of, one day my time will come, or my time is coming. I love this process. I'm committed to that. And then you earn your pro card. You're like, oh my God, one day could be today. And it was today, right?
Yes, that was exactly it. I was like, oh my gosh, today was the day.
That's super awesome. I imagine that then hitting the drawing board, and kind of mapping out what your next move will be as a pro was really exciting as well, because I imagine you've watched these pro shows or seen these competitions and been like, I really want to do that.
Oh, absolutely. And like I said, like my initial plan was to start off the very first pro show that was on the 2021
Mhm.
schedule, and then realizing the time between me just getting my pro card to that show. Yes, you can make good changes, you can make adequate changes, but are you really giving yourself enough of that time to really just even reset physically and mentally to have that longevity? Because I know with, and like I said, I know every show, even going into 2021, everything's not set in stone as
Mhm.
if they will happen or not. But there are so many pro shows, out there, whether they are going to be more compacted or spread out. Um, there's so many, and I just need to remind myself, okay, you don't need to rush going into it. If you're not going to be mentally and physically feeling your best, go into it when you feel like you have that full 100% energy and everything into it again. And that way you can just continue to love the journey and continue to love every single show. And that's my mindset going into it, is I definitely do plan to be on stage this year. Um, and and I'm okay waiting just that little bit longer to make sure that when I do hop on that pro stage, that it's going to be the most memorable experience possible.
Oh, absolutely. So, how are you gauging, or how do you know when you are ready to prep again?
I'm really taking right now, and I emphasize this so much. By no means do I take like those off seasons and those breaks to just fall off and not follow
Of course.
structure and routine and everything. Like I'm a very routine and structured person, and it just means that I'm able to honestly get more energy by just slowly, increasing food, having more of a balance of being around friends and family and stuff again. Because this last year, it was so much of a focus of staying in and not having those social gatherings and stuff. And that this year, I was like, I said, okay, I want to, when we can, I want to be having more visits with my family, more gatherings with friends, more things like that, and not, I guess, stress so much if I miss a gym session or miss a meal or anything, like, in that sense, if that makes sense. Just because when I'm in prep, I'm like, hey, nothing's being missed, and nothing's being anything less effort, versus a little bit more of that balance of like, okay, I'm still following plan, I'm still following structure, but there's a lot more just lenience with your just day to day life, like saying yes to more things.
Awesome. Yes, I appreciate that approach or that thought as well. It's not about exercising a new desire for freedom or balance by resorting to food, let's say, or saying, "Oh, I'm just going to stop working out altogether." Instead, it's finding ways to allow these two worlds to really come together more seamlessly and capitalize on the energy you have as it increases, and on the recovery you're having or the experiences you're able to have. And I think that that is an awesome way to set yourself up for success. And that really seems to be the theme of this episode, is like, be willing to reset to have success, be willing to take your time, release the outcome. As long as you love the process, you're going to get there. And I've also been competing since 2015. I also took time off, and I've continued to take time off. And I think there's a lot of value in that. And if it's taught me anything, it's that it requires patience, and we have to love the process. We have to embrace it. We have to find a process that works for us. So as a personal trainer yourself, working with contest prep and lifestyle coaching clients and posing coaching, which you mentioned as well through your team, Absolute Physiques, how do you use your own experiences as an athlete to support your clients in their own goals or in understanding their best approach so that they have that longevity?
I think just honestly, it's, you said it as far as like the the theme and the word is just having that patience. And I can't stress that enough, because like we had mentioned before, there were so many times that I remember thinking, am I, am I cut out for this? Am I just going to keep doing show and show and show? Is my time going to come? Am I going to reach, am I going to reach my goal? You're always thinking that in your mind, until, until it happens. And even after you hit that goal, you want to keep working towards um, continuing like to better yourself. And that's such a approach that I do take with all my clients, regardless if they're lifestyle or competitors, is that you have to have the patience to get to your goal. You have to have the, definitely the drive for it. You have to have your own motivation for where you want to be and how you want to get there, and stay accountable to that. But you need to have that patience, because it's not anything that's going to happen overnight. And then when you do reach that goal, you still need to have that love and all the habits and everything that you built upon to then to keep going and to keep improving. So patience is something that I use. I've obviously had to use with myself through the years, and that's something that I feel like I really dig into clients is know your reasons for wanting to reach your goal, have those have really find like that good balance in your life to where you are able to love the journey. And then we're thinking about even the after too, after you reach that goal, what's next on your list to keep you going.
Hmm. Yes, it's so important to have other goals, like have things that you're looking forward to, have things that keep you going and that you can focus your energy on. Because if not, then things can feel very fleeting, only to want something for a physique goal or for a title is so, it doesn't last, right? Like it's not the same as really developing something that feels right for us. So, I want to hear from you as an athlete. Like you've mentioned a few times how much you love and embrace structure. How has that structure in your training and in your nutrition also shown up or required you to have more structure in your day-to-day life? Like, how do you go about a normal day from when you wake up to when you go to bed?
And so obviously this whole year it's really changed a lot in terms of structure. My, typical being in a when I was personal training at the gym, my typical day was waking up at 4 a.m. and training my first client at 4:30, 5 a.m. and not leaving the gym until about 5 p.m. at night. So, and having that as a trainer, trainers would know, like you kind of have more of that gap in the middle of the day because you're training people more in the start of their day and the end of their day. That's typically how that works. Versus, when I had stopped working at the gym, I continued to get up, with my best friend in the morning, and we would still go to the gym at that time. So I still wanted to always keep that structure as far as like, okay, this is when I like to start my day. This is like when I like to have, my workout done. This is when I spend time doing, either, client plans or reading or whatever it may be. I still like to structure those things out regardless of what's going on in the world. And I think that's really important because this, if this last year, made anyone think any certain way. It's like, man, I've lost my routine, I've lost my structure. But that really comes from each person and the priorities and their goals that they have for themselves every single day. And that's what really shows too, I feel like.
Mhm. No, definitely. Like, I think we can see what people care about by looking at their routine, right? And looking at their daily
Yeah.
life, their habits. That's what really gives away what people are prioritizing and what they like, what they don't like and what they find important. And I think that also goes back to what you said about having goals and making this a lifestyle is if this doesn't really align, with your values, the things that you care about, and like you said way earlier, like if it doesn't add to your life, either you're doing something wrong that needs to change, or maybe it's not the best fit. Maybe it's not the lifestyle if it's taken away from everything else. And I love how you've reinforced how this has become your lifestyle. This is something you really, really enjoy. And I honestly think that that is the pro mentality. That's why you were able to keep going and you got where you wanted to be. And I have no doubt you'll get even further along in this journey because of that.
Oh, that really means so much.
Of course.
I feel like with each question you've asked me, I've gone on like rants and everything, but I hope it's all made
Oh
sense.
my gosh, I love the rants.
Journey and everything, because I could keep
No,
going.
I love it. No, seriously, like, okay, like girls have come on the show and they've told me that, and I'm like, no, it's so much better than me trying to like pull teeth. I love listening. I love listening to the journey. I like seeing where the conversation goes. So everything you've said has helped me to learn more about you and learn more about your mindset and your process. And I know girls listening will feel the same way. So seriously, like, I don't want you to hold back because it is so helpful and it's important stuff that you're sharing and your journey's important. And, I'm learning from it.
Oh, that means so much.
Yes, of course. Absolutely. And I think it's awesome too that you mentioned that you had left like toxic relationships and you moved and you found your way to an environment that supports you and wants to see you win. And I think that's important just for informing how we see ourselves, but also approaching, our own life. So how has having a support system around you supported you in pursuing your goals all this time?
Your environment, I can't stress enough, is probably like one of the most important things, like in just your day to day life, and not just the things that you're doing, but how you yourself are feeling. And I can honestly say now that like most of the people, and most of the people in my life are people who either have like competed or have been through some sort of like fitness journey or have had some sort of goal from themselves. And I think that's so important in the sense of I don't feel like I feel like I used to feel like I needed to always be around everybody all the time, regardless if they were somebody who supported my goals or not. Because I'm that person who I want to support. I want to support everybody regardless of if I believe like that goal is like for me or something. If it's something you're striving for, then I'm all for it. And not everybody's reciprocating in the same way, and that's important to just be able to sit back and say, okay, is this are these people in my life really benefiting me mentally, physically, and actions day to day? And that can be in any sort of environment, whether it's your family, your friends, relationships. It's okay to have a for me it became okay to have a smaller circle, knowing that I'm surrounded by people who love and support me no matter what, and see my goals and want the best for me. And we don't and even if my best friend, she competes too, and we never ever felt like going into a show we were ever competing against one another. We were always
Mhm.
so happy for each other, whether we were in the same show or class or anything like that. So, and I think that's so important in just your life in general, is that it should never, your friendships and your relationships and everything shouldn't feel like any sort of competition. It should just come natural to where you're able to support each other and uplift each other. And that makes such a difference for, your own thoughts about yourself.
Yes, and it takes you out of like comparison or um negative competition type mindset and puts you into that mindset of support and everybody can win if we're uplifting each other. And this sport, a lot of people say it's an individual sport, and it can be lonely, it can be hard, it can, at the end of the day, it's just you and how hard are you pushing in the gym, what kind of decisions are you making with your food, how are you prioritizing your mindset, how are you sleeping, all those things matter, and that comes down to you. But when you do have an environment that you can have that support in and even achieve those goals with, that's awesome. And it's clear that for you, you've really prioritized your environment and no longer feeling like you had to be around people who didn't support you. And I imagine it's the same the other way around. And I love that you share that, because you took yourself out of an environment that wasn't conducive to your goals and got the courage to leave and find a new one. And is there anything you learned from that experience in your last environment or relationship that has maybe helped you to better understand what your needs are now?
I I can say I've always been an independent person. I've always known that I do like to take care, of myself, and I never want to depend on anybody else. And I know that every, relationship and friendship and everything is very different, but I think it's just so important to always know that at the end of the day, you need to rely on you, and that nobody else could give you that, like that support and that comfort and that structure that you give to yourself. Other people can then add to your life, and definitely you can, add more values with each other, and support each other, but no one's going to give you what you give yourself. And that's that's definitely what that taught me the most of, is that nobody's going to give me what, no one's going to just give me that, a fresh start, or help me, discover all the things in life, like, without you going through your own struggles and experiences and lessons. And surrounding, you choose who you want to surround yourself with, and all of that. So I know I just kind of went on a little
Oh
rant
no,
again
it's so
there, but
true.
that's my point of it, is that you have to be able to rely on you.
So true. And it's like this message is important for anything. Like, let's not seek things outside of us that we can create within us, It's like, why would we want to take that power away from ourselves? And when we can give it to ourselves, we'll be more likely to be able to receive it healthfully from others too. And I think it's awesome that you've been able to do that. And I appreciate your tangents, because it brings a lot more insight. And you even mentioned like you do posing coaching as well. And, being in the space for a while, I'm sure you've gotten lots of feedback, or you've seen lots of girls hit the stage and maybe studying it and things like that. So I'd love to hear your top 3 posing tips for the competitors listening.
Oh, absolutely. So the oh gosh, posing for me is so fun. I know
Mhm.
I know when you start off, like, could be really like nerve wracking, and being like, okay, what am I doing and everything. Um, but my tips for anyone I've, done posing with and have coached, and would, the first one is going to be like, hey, you're going to, you're going to get your, you'll get your routine down. It just takes the practice. So my first tip is that once you get it all down, you have to practice it, and you can't just like learn it once and then think that it's like muscle memory where it's like riding a bike or anything like that. It's one of those things that you have to continuously practice and do, because your bodies aren't naturally meant to be doing those twists and motions and things like that, to where it's just going to feel comfortable. So, really like listening to, your posing coach, or, watching yourself, seeing what looks best on you, practicing that, and practicing, and then confidence can make or break the posing for sure. You can definitely tell when somebody feels that, that when they feel that confident energy on the stage or practicing their posing, versus when they feel like they're questioning everything, and they're questioning like, oh, does this look right? Does this look right? And there's nothing, confidence is what really shines. And then having fun with it, because if you're not, like I said, even with the whole journey itself, if you're not having fun with it, then your own personality isn't going to shine through during the routine. So I would definitely say, like, hey, once you are starting to get your poses and your routine and everything down, practicing it, really showing like that confidence with it, and then letting your personality shine through it.
I love that. And sometimes people don't know how to do that. How do you get your personality to shine, or how do you know if you're practicing the right things? And I think having a coach is really important for that. And you mentioned the importance of confidence as well, which I think can be bred with practice and with being yourself up there. And I love how you emphasize the importance of having fun too. So how are you approaching like the choreographing for your pro routine?
It's, I really use all those tips. I practice it. I want to practice all the time. I want to know that, hey, like I have that confidence. Like, I know that I'll have deserved to have been up there with all these other amazing pros when it's time for, my heels to hit that stage. And adding I guess like when you add your own personality, it's just what feels really natural to you. You don't want to just copy someone else's posing or a pose that looks good on somebody else because you like the way that it looks on them, because it might not be the best type of posing or flair or anything for your own physique. And so you're always going to be able to tell when something looks forced versus when it looks natural. So I tend to right now with the routine I've been, trying to, work with and everything like that. Of course you get inspiration from other people, but I honestly look back at a lot of my own posing videos from previous shows as far as like what I've liked and haven't liked on my physique, and just trying to kind of obviously put it all together into a longer routine, which is so exciting because I remember always thinking, man, you don't get enough time to really pose. So now I get all this time to be able to work with. And so I'm having honestly so much fun with that, being able to, hit the poses I love to hit, hold them a little bit longer, and be more like, I guess, like add more of like that sass that I always wish that you can always show more, but when you don't have a whole lot of the time, it seems like it just goes really, really quick.
That'll be awesome to see, because I mean I've watched your posing videos as well, and I think it'll be great to see how are you going to now take that same energy and apply it to having more time and spending your time up there on that stage, really celebrating how far you've come and your love for it. Like you said earlier too, like just having fun and taking your deep breath and knowing that this is something you love doing. So having your confidence show will be awesome. And I'm excited to just see that on the pro stage as well. And throughout this whole episode, you've given us lots of insight. I really do have a lot of notes, and I'm excited for everybody to hear this. And I want to say again, thank you for coming on. But could you give us your best advice for the girl who has never competed before but wants to, and then your best advice for the girl who's on her road to pro?
Oh, absolutely. And so for someone who has never competed before, um, my best advice would be to really follow, follow whatever your dream is in the sport. So if your dream is to just, hop on the stage for the very first time and that be it, or if you already know you want to possibly go farther in it, um, just follow your heart with it each day, and trust the journey, enjoy the journey, because you only get that. I feel like you only get that one stage day. So, but you get the entire prep leading up to it. And you don't want to just be counting down the days until that stage day, because that comes and goes so quickly. You want to be able to look back and say, okay, was I fully like engaged? Was I fully, enjoying the whole process leading up to that one day that comes and goes? Because your prep is like months, that's months and months. So I feel like just enjoy each and every day leading up to that show day. Because especially when it's your first show, all you're thinking of is that day, that day, that day. But really enjoying the journey each day and appreciating that, and what your body's able to do. And then for somebody on their road to pro, and this is something I really had to use for myself, is that everyone's journey is so different. Some people go into, their national shows and they get it right away. And some people, it takes them a lot longer. It took me 6 national shows. And I just needed to have like that patience and knowing that, hey, everybody has their time when it's meant to be. Each time you get feedback, take that feedback, have your improvements, knowing that you're stepping on stage with no regrets on what you followed and what you did leading up to it. But know that your time will come, and to keep believing in yourself. And that if you really love the journey and you really love the process of it, then, it's not just going to seem like you need to be in a hurry with it, that everyone has their time. You will have your time, and just to keep believing in yourself and to keep going no matter any obstacles that come in your way.
Wow. Love that advice. It really captures your journey to earning your pro card, but also the journey you believe is best. And I appreciate you sharing that. I could not agree more. Patience really is the key here. And everything you shared is something I want other girls to be able to maybe expand on with you or reach out or learn more. So can you let everybody know where they can connect with you?
Absolutely. So I'm mainly on Instagram as far as like anything else. And that's at Trisha _fit _IFBB pro, which I had to change that very recently. So that's very exciting to have that name. And um, you can go to the Team Absolute Physiques .com page and look into coaching and everything like that there. And then with posing and everything, I'm actually working right now on building like a website for myself, because I want to have that kind of that one-stop shop where people can go on and be able to look at the coaching, look at the posing, look at everything kind of like all in one. So that's something in the works right now, which will be out really soon, which I'm really excited for, because then that's something I could just keep growing with, within the platform, and be able to reach people from everywhere and not just somebody who's local to me. And so right now I feel like, Instagram right now, but website will be coming soon. And then I will obviously be posting about that and everything.
Perfect. And this episode won't, by the time people hear this, maybe it will be live.
Yes,
So
that's the goal.
just, send it to me.
Oh, absolutely.
I'll put it in the show notes page along with everything else. So you guys listening, the show notes page is always celestial.fit/podcast. If you're listening right away, Trisha's episode will be at the very top. If you're listening in the far future, go to the category section, click on Trisha's name. It's all in alphabetical order. So you'll be able to find it, and you can find all the ways to connect. And there's full show notes and episode timestamps, so you'll know exactly what we talked about when, and you'll be able to reflect on the episode anytime and your favorite parts of it. So I'm very, very excited to have you guys, tag us, let us know what your main takeaways were, what you enjoyed about it, or maybe a follow-up questions. We could do like Instagram live or something. But we're always open to feedback as well. So I want to say thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast. And I've got some big goals for this podcast this year, and it would be nothing without all of you, and how special it is to have you on, Trisha, knowing that you've been a long time listener, and now I get to interview you and shine light on your amazing story and journey.
I appreciate it so much. You have no idea, like I said, you have no idea how excited I was to do this. And I've always been a fan of it, and I know how much it's, helped me to listen to other people's journeys. And so, if any part of my journey is able to inspire, uplift somebody, and that's really just what brings a smile to my face thinking about it. And that's why I couldn't be more excited to, be talking with you today. So thank you so much for having me on. It's been nothing but amazing.
Of course, absolutely. And I hope anybody listening, I know they're going to be inspired by your story. And I hope you guys out there listening, if you love this show and you want to be on here one day and, you earn your pro card, you can always reach out to, like I reached out to Trisha, but you guys can always reach out to me as well. I love hearing stories. I love talking to competitors, and it means so much to me to have your guys' support. So I always want to shine light back on the athletes like you out there. So Thank you again, Trisha, and thank you to everybody listening. I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this episode. Just make it awesome.